Hello, I'm Monsignor Jim Lisanti. Today on Personally Speaking, I'll be joined by Emmy Award-winning writer, actress, and comedian Monica Piper. Monica is a star and creator of the Off-Broadway comedy, a great hit called Not That Jewish. Please stay with us. Hello and welcome to Personally Speaking. I'm your host, Monsignor Jim Lisanti. An Emmy Award-winning and Golden Globe-nominated writer, actress, and comedian, Monica Piper, joins me now. Monica is the star and creator of an autobiographical off-Broadway comedy called Not That Jewish, where she shares the milestones and moments that shaped her life. Monica has written for the hit television comedies Roseanne and Mad About You, and became the showrunner of the #1 children's animated show, Rugrats, for which she's won an Emmy Award. Monica's here with us today to talk about her life, her career, her family, her faith, and her values, good deeds, compassion, acceptance, and humor that are highlighted in her show and have always been an important part of her life. Joining me now, I'm so pleased to welcome to Personally Speaking, Monica Piper. We are here with Monica Piper. I am delighted that she is here with us. She's a writer, she's an actress, she's a comedian. She has multiple talents that we'll talk about. I had the privilege of seeing a off-Broadway play that she has written and stars in called Not That Jewish, one of the most moving things I've ever seen. Made me laugh, made me cry, and we're going to talk about that. But let me ask you first, Monica, the obvious question that I found in that play. What does it mean to have a Jewish heart?
Well, that's what we actually find out at the very end of the play.
Okay.
At the very beginning of the play, it's Rosh Hashanah, and my mother, we didn't belong to a temple, but on the high holidays, my mother would make us dress up and stand in front of the apartment building so it looked like we just got home from temple.
Right.
So we would do that, and it was working. We were getting away with it. But one of my fellow 7-year-old neighbors asked me, "Did you really go to temple?" And I couldn't lie. I wasn't a good liar back then.
Right.
Not like now. I'm a great liar now.
We learn so much in the path of life, right?
So I just said, not exactly. And she accused me of being not Jewish because I basically wasn't observant.
Right.
And I didn't know how to defend that. And so I started asking my father and my mother and my grandmother. And my grandmother says, "All right, so you don't go to temple, but what's important is that you got a Jewish heart."
Right. And we learn throughout the play what that means.
And we learn throughout the play what that means.
And what I found about the Jewish heart, the constituent elements of a Jewish heart, is that it's a universal heart that people of every religion should have.
Every religion. It basically, throughout the play, we see examples of deeds. My father would say, "It's not what you say, it's what you do."
Right.
You know, he taught me early, do good things. Good things will come back to you.
You got so much wisdom from so many people. Your mom as well comes up in the play. You learn from your own son. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Most of my friends who are Jewish, and I come from Long Island and I do a lot of weddings that are Catholic Jewish, they'll say, we shouldn't have a problem blending because in the end for us it's about culture, tradition, less about religion. Do you have any insight, Monica, into why not just in the Jewish faith, but in the Catholic faith, a lot of people are more culturally Catholic than they are religiously Catholic? A lot of my Jewish friends are more culturally Jewish than they are religiously Jewish. Any reason, you think?
Well, I think that the culture of each is so rich, first of all, and so identifiable with your culture. Like with Jewish people, if even if you don't go to temple, you have certain expressions.
Right.
You can look at each other. I wish this wasn't radio just for this moment, because I remember when I was teaching school, there was only one other Jewish teacher on the faculty.
Wow.
And we were at a conference. We would be at the teachers' meetings, and staff meetings, and he'd be on the other side of the room, and someone would say something so stupid, and he and I would look at each other and give a look like, yeah, like, yeah. Oy. I mean, that kind of a look.
Great communication that is Jewish.
There is a great communication. But the thing is that the culture is so rich. You can be a secular Jew and still feel very Jewish.
Yes.
The food, the traditions, if you get a bunch of people over for Passover, or on the high holy days, you try to fast.
Are you
you're
united,
hungry.
Monica? Are you bound together by the reality is if you're Jewish, you've been bounced around, hit by any number of forces in history. It's not been easy to be Jewish. You have more countries you've been chased out of. Does that background of oppression bond you together?
Yes, it definitely does, but it's not like it's ever present in conversation.
Right.
It's just always there. And if you remember at the end of the show, your audience doesn't know what transpired, but first of all, the first thing you should know is that Not That Jewish is not that Jewish.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
If you think, it's a stand-up comedian doing a show about being Jewish,
it's
really not.
It's much more than that.
It's much more.
Yeah.
It's if you've ever lost a parent, if you've
struggled with cancer,
if you're
having a child, adopting a child,
single woman trying to figure out how you can, must you have a man just in order to have a family? All these issues, dealing with breast cancer and a teenager, living with breast cancer
That's
and
taking
a
you
teenager.
right to heaven. Right to heaven you go.
At the same time. And actually try to figure out which one's worse.
Yeah.
But it really isn't. And a lot of it's really funny, first of all. I mean, just understand that it's definitely funny. But if you think it's just going to be a stand-up doing shtick,
it's so much more than that.
About being Jewish, it really isn't.
Monica Piper's our guest. The show I want you around the country to come to see in New York or wherever it's playing is called Not That Jewish. Now, let me ask you, years ago, I had the opportunity to know, to love, and to be friends with an old film director named Frank Capra. And I said to Mr. Capra, why in every movie, no matter how serious the theme, do you manage to slip in humor? And he said, Jim, if people can laugh, you get their defenses down, and then you can give them the message you want to give them. Monica, you are Capra-esque.
Thank you. I can't think of a better compliment, because that's really how I feel. Yeah. You get them laughing. People say, I was laughing until I started crying, and then I was crying until I started laughing again. When you get people laughing, they are relaxed.
Yes.
And they feel safer. They feel, my father always said to me, and this is one of the lines in the play, making people laugh is a gift, kid. Helps them take their mind off their troubles. And so that's why I think making people laugh for a living is a very noble,
You make the world a richer place because
profession.
of it. Stephen Schwartz was in, and when we were talking, I said, you have Pippin, you have Wicked, but I'm intrigued that your first musical was Godspell. And why would you, as a secular Jewish man, write a musical about Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew? And he said, you don't need to be Christian to know that the world would be in better shape if we lived by the teachings of Jesus. And I'm struck by that because and I know that, and that's why I'm glad you said, Monica, Not That Jewish is Not That Jewish, is the universals that bond us together should make it a peaceful, loving world no matter what your religious background. But and I know there's more killing going on in the name of God now than any other thing in the world.
I know.
Why?
You're
Crazy.
asking me. I mean, every time another program is cut in the budget Jesus said, feed the poor, take care of people. Yeah. He didn't say, take these
Never
things.
Said cut.
Never said cut.
He who welcomes the stranger welcomes me. So when I deal with my Congress people who are anti-immigrant, I say, did you hear what Jesus said? He who welcomes the stranger welcomes me. How can you be against these people who are trying desperately to give their families a better life?
I know. And it's funny because there's a line in the play when I'm asking my family members, Carol Bengelsdorf says I'm not that Jewish.
Right.
What does that mean? And I said, and then my grandma says, what's important is that you got a Jewish heart.
Right.
So then I go to my mother, Mom, do I have a Jewish heart?
Yes.
And she says, of course you do, darling. We're Democrats. And so, anyway, but the gist of it is that I go through a crisis of wanting very much to have a family and to be a mother. But I was a comedian on the road, a female, and a marriage, an earlier marriage that didn't work out.
One of the husband's addiction?
One of the
You talk about that very honestly, too?
A relationship, yes, there was drug addiction, and I had to walk out. I had to leave, and so I find myself at a certain age without a man and still yearning to be a mother. And I realized that maybe I should be the mother first and then find the man.
Right.
So I do. But for some reason, it's important to me to raise a Jewish man.
Right. But tell us even about the process of how did you come to adopt Jake?
Well, as I say in the play, how we came together, myself and the birth mother, is a whole other story. Just know God had a hand in it.
Okay.
Because due to circumstance, I went to an agency, and anyway, and I thought, it's got to be slim to none for me to.
Right.
I'm a single woman, and why would a birth mother ever want to do this? And the other thing about the play that I love is that I'm giving a voice to a birth mother, and I say to the audience, please don't judge her. She's my hero, because people assume, how could they do that? How could they do that? Give up
a child up.
And it was an unselfish act.
It was a generous thing to do.
She had
Monica
to do
Piper,
it.
in her performance, shares with us the words of that birth mother. And it is, if you're not moved by that, you have no heart.
You have no heart, Jewish heart, any heart. So I make up my mind that I have to raise him Jewish. I'm not even sure why. And then I realize it's because of the need to pass it down. Mm-hmm. This gets back to one of your earlier question about what bonds Jews. It's the need to pass it down, to know that you're a link in a chain, and that another Jew creates another Jew, and that's how we keep on going.
Yeah. And it's kind of universal, Monica. That regularly people come to my church and they want to have their kids baptized, and I say, do you go to church? Do you have any kind of active religion? No. Why is it important to get this kid baptized then? I want the tradition. I want the culture. I want who I am to go to the next generation.
Exactly.
I guess it's universal.
Exactly. But because he's adopted, and in the Jewish religion, if you really are going to be extremely following the rules, the child is the religion of the birth mother. And when you give birth to a child, if you're Jewish, the kid is Jewish. If you're not, then, and he wants to be Jewish, he has to convert and all that, supposedly. So here I am, I give him the Jewish education. There's a beautiful scene where he's bar mitzvahed.
Right.
And, but my father's dying at the same time as my son's bar mitzvah. So it was, this is one of those rides that the audience goes on. They're laughing hysterically one minute, and the next minute the hankies are all out. Oh no, we love your father, because from the very beginning of the show.
You make us love him, and then he leaves us. I know.
I know, because he's so funny. He's such a funny man. So I go through all that, and then when Jake turns 18, he says to me, that's my son, he says, I'm not really Jewish, right? And I go, what?
Thanks, son.
Are you kidding me? He said, well, my birth mother isn't, so that's how you tell.
Wow.
And I went, but wait, you have to be, And then there's some very funny really funny moments where I realized that there were signs all along that I
Right.
choose to ignore. Like when he was 6 and told me chopped liver made him throw up, stuff like that.
I want to talk to you about the love that comes across in your performance. In Not That Jewish, Monica essentially says, without saying it, that this child, adopted or not, that she would give her life for him. The love she has for him is unconditional. Were you surprised by how deeply, how powerfully you fell in love with this child who was not of your womb but of your heart?
Oh my God, no! The second, I mean, I was with the birth mother for 3 months before he was born,
Wow.
and every single day I would sing. She would let me sing to him,
Oh.
to his stomach, to her stomach. How I love my little baby. And it never occurred to me that I had a crappy voice. And then he was probably in there going, oh, God, no, not again.
Yeah.
Stop.
Please, not that.
Do you want me to come out? I'm not coming out if you keep doing that. So that he knew my voice was very familiar to him. Yeah. So that when he was born. But no matter how you anticipate it, no matter how much you try to anticipate how wonderful it's going to be, and you're busy making a baby room and getting a crib and doing all that, it's nothing compared to that first look in his eyes, and that first moment when you're bonding and he's God.
Monica Piper's our guest. The show is Not That Jewish. You must see it any way, shape, or form you can. Monica, what struck me when I was seeing the play, and I loved it so much, was you love deeply, but you lose deeply. So this father you adore breaks your heart. Your mom, who is this smart, good, wonderful woman,
and
battles
funny,
Alzheimer's.
Very clever,
loses
funny
all that
woman.
wonderful mind of hers toward the end. This experience that you have of breast cancer, of dealing with the scary news, you've got cancer. What I'm getting at is, with all these blessings that turn into challenges, did you ever have time to shake your fist in God's face and say, what are you thinking?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There were, of course. I mean, but whose life doesn't have disappointments? I mean, whose life? What kind of life are you living if it's not full of not just the joy, but the loss? That's when you. But I'm one of those people who really believes that if you suffer, the joy then becomes so much sweeter, and.
I love that image.
You know,
yeah.
but there's something I want your audience to know right away.
Sure.
For you slightly younger people out there, I was the head writer of Rugrats.
we in the introduction, I told them that, and I wanted to touch on that too, because one of the other things that Monica wrote for was Roseanne.
Yes.
And now I was
Mad About You.
And Mad About You. Now I have to tell you, I was one of those people that wasn't a big fan of Roseanne Barr, but recently seeing her on that Last Comic Standing show, I saw a warmth, a heart, a goodness that I didn't know existed in her. You work with her closely. Is she a nice person?
She is. Basically, deep down. I mean, she's an artist, and she got famous, and everyone has their moods.
Sure.
And when I was working on the show, she was married to Tom Arnold, and that was a
not
crazy
easy.
time
Yeah.
for everybody. But I met her in Denver when she was an open micer.
Okay.
I was the headliner at the Denver Comedy Club, and she stepped on that stage. We watched the open micers one night before our show, and she just, you just knew the minute you met her that this was something you've never seen before.
Wow.
You know, I'm a domestic goddess. I'm a housewife, but I prefer, I mean, she was so funny. Anyway, she came up to me and said, you have so much material. You want to write together? You want to, while you're here? And I went, yeah. So that's kind of how we became friends. Yeah. But, people get famous. When she first moved out to L.A., she was at the Comedy Store, and I was at the Comedy Store. And We worked on some stuff together. I was with her for her first Tonight Show shot.
Yeah.
I was in the green room while she was out there suddenly getting famous, literally overnight.
Yeah.
And but then people get famous, and their worlds become different from yours,
Yeah.
and you don't hear from them. And all of a sudden, I don't know how many years later, I get a phone call. Hi, I want you to write on the show. I need a strong female voice. And
Wow.
and how's the baby? Congratulations on the baby. And then, but what she didn't say was, congratulations on the baby, who you'll never see again once you write on my show. Because
That's right. Gets
they
in the way,
keep
sure.
you there till 4 a.m. And so it was a crazy time. I was writing on the #1 show in the country, but as you know from the play, I make a promise to the birth mother.
Yeah.
I am going to
My
be
priority.
a great mom.
Yeah.
You know, at first I said to her, I'm going to find him a great dad. She said, no, just promise me you'll be a great mom.
Wow.
And I was there on Roseanne, and I said, oh my gosh, I'm not being a great mom. I'm breaking my promise.
Wow.
And so I lasted the season. I stayed for the rest of the season because in LA, it's so funny. If you quit a show like Roseanne, if you quit a sitcom, you may never work in that town again.
Holy
but if
mackerel.
you get fired, that's fine. It's fine to get fired,
Yeah.
especially from Roseanne because she fired everyone.
Yeah.
So, but I did stick it out. And then I went back on the road and I took him with me.
Oh, so he
we
traveled where you traveled.
traveled with me to comedy clubs.
The sacrifice that his mom made in putting up for adoption, the unconditional love you as his mom have spent on him, at the end of the day, what kind of person has Jake turned out to be?
Well, see, that's the whole beauty of the play. Because when he tells me, I don't think I'm Jewish, and to me, that's like a crisis.
A knife in the heart.
I go, it's one thing to be not that Jewish, but not Jewish at all? Oh, my God. You have to be. And then I get an email on the day he turns 18 from the birth mother asking if she can contact him. And I asked Jake how he feels about it, and he says, okay. And they start speaking on the phone. And then I get this letter from her 2 weeks after they began speaking saying, all these years I wondered, did I do the right thing? And it haunted me.
Yeah.
And now this gift. You have raised such a beautiful young man that all those fears are finally gone. Wow. I feel free for the first time. And she writes something so beautiful. She said, I know Jake's a reflection of you, and kudos to me for choosing you.
Wow.
I just want to say thank you. All my love, Joe. So now I'm reading this and I'm saying, okay, let me figure this out. My grandma says what's important is that you got a Jewish heart. That was like, 40 years ago.
Right.
Now I'm thinking I have a crisis because my son isn't Jewish. And then I get this letter from the birth mother saying he's beautiful. Yeah. And now I think about all the things that my grandmother meant was a Jewish heart, which is deeds, acceptance, humor, compassion. Yeah. And when I have breast cancer, my son, who's a typical obnoxious teenager, and there's a really, really funny, there's some funny stuff in the show about
I want to say, did the birth mother ever see him with the mohawk?
She probably did because he posted everything on Facebook, and they became Facebook friends. But I say to myself, well, wait a second. Here I think I'm in this crisis because he says he's not Jewish, but I look at him. You see, he did a total 180 when I had cancer. He was this obnoxious teenager who thought, his mother was the stupidest thing on the planet, right. And he knew everything, and I knew nothing, and blah, 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 rude, nasty, blah, blah, blah. And then when I get sick, he's by my side. Oh. And he couldn't be more helpful and more worried and more concerned. And, there's, and that I say that, my last treatment was 3 days before Thanksgiving, and man, was I thankful, obviously, to be alive, for loving and caring friends, but mostly for knowing that somewhere in all that quagmire of the teenage brain, my son found his kindness in the middle of all that. And he emerged not only as a man, but a mensch.
What a mitzvah, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the very end, when I realized what did my grandma mean, she meant good deeds, humor, compassion, acceptance. My son had that. Yeah. And if that's what it means to have a Jewish heart, my son had that, and you don't have to be Jewish to have one.
Right. Which
includes everyone in the audience.
That's right.
Who is compassionate and accepting and is funny, and who cares if you're Jewish, as long as you're a good person.
Monica, what would you like for our listeners around the country? I had the privilege of seeing this show. What would you like people to walk away from having seen Not That Jewish?
Well, I think one of the men said something to me that might be perfect for this answer, I think. Just understand, guys, this isn't a chick show. This is the men laugh just as loud, and the men cry just as hard. This man came up to me and said, I was so blown away by this experience, and I know already it's making me a better husband and father.
Wow.
And I went, what
How great is that?
What more can I ask?
Yep.
And people come up to me, women come up to me and said, one of them says, I related on so many levels. Or one will say, I related because I went through breast cancer, blah, blah, blah. Another one, our son is adopted, and what a beautiful story. And then I had a birth mother come up to me and said, thank you. She had tears rolling down her face. And she thanked me for portraying her side as not the villain, but as a brave and courageous act.
You certainly do that, Monica, beautifully. I want to thank Monica Piper for being with us. She is, as I said before, a great writer, comedian, actress, but she has put together a work of art about life and about family and about values and about who God really is. It's a wonderful experience. Not That Jewish. I went to the theater thinking what she said before. What am I going to do with this Jewish play? It's not. It's a universal play about love, acceptance, tolerance, understanding, compassion, and every one of us needs to see it. Monica, thank you for your gift.
Oh, thank you.
As we end today's program, I want to thank you all for being with us. If you have any questions or comments about the show, you can send them to me through my website, which is monsignorlasanti.org, or to listen to past Personally Speaking episodes, you can go to www.closeencountertv.com. I'm privileged to serve as host and executive producer of Personally Speaking. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be with you again next time on Personally Speaking.